Hello, beautiful people. Hey, look, before I start this session, I have a big announcement to make. And, the documentary that's been in the works for a long time about my son Eric's life, it's almost finished. But in order to get to that finish line, the director producer Paula Marino needs some help. So she needs funds to cover all the professional fees that will be involved to bring the story to the screen, like a professional story editor, a music composer, a sound mixer, an illustrator, animator, etc., etc. Now, Paula created a crowdfunding page where you can donate whatever you feel comfortable donating. You can also donate by purchasing a 30-minute session with one of our mediums, or by purchasing an item from the Erik merchandise store, like the one I'm wearing. Saving the world one prank at a time. It's an embroidered image, so it's really nice. So anyway, go visit channelingericdoc.com and take a look at it. This project is very near and dear to my heart. And one of my greatest wishes is to get the story out to more people so we can help more people. And I want you to go and see the trailer that's on the channelingericdoc.com. It's so moving. It's so powerful. It was my first reaction. It was a gut punch. Um, but it says it all. So look at the trailer and let me know what you think. Thank you, guys. Yeah, Ginger and I have been talking possums. I just saw possum in broad daylight, just crossed right in front of me. Not in front of me, but in my front yard. Anyway, this is Ginger. Yeah. Find out about her on the screen and in the description box below. And you will certainly want to after we finish this wonderful session that we're going to do with the help of my lovely son on the other side, Erik Medhus. Hello, Erik. I love you.
He's so funny. He says, "Hi, Mom, I love you." Yeah, he's okay. I don't know why, but he's wearing these overalls with like this shirt with like this flag, like America's Great on it, like flag.
Oh.
I mean, I know why because of what we're talking about, but usually I don't know. We've talked about stuff like this before, but he's just dressed up for the occasion. He's being silly.
Awesome.
He's being
Well,
silly
he
today.
actually played some pranks on us because my husband was looking for the stapler and it's always on the kitchen, the little desk in the kitchen.
Uh-huh.
And I said, it's a man site, they can never see anything. It's right behind the milk. But I went over there, it wasn't there. And then I came back, I went to look at my other desk, my office desk, my other one was on the desk, but then I went back and there it was right on top of the desk. And he did the same with my comb too. He hid that and
yeah, he did. He did. He did it. Yeah.
Two times. Why is that? Are you trying to alert me to something?
No, he's just letting you know that he's around. And you know what? He does other things sometimes too that like maybe don't get seen.
Yeah.
Right. So, and he says it's okay. You don't have to see it. Don't worry about ever missing it because he'll make sure you see something, but yeah, really but he's saying there's nothing. Yeah. There was something going on. Was there something going on that day or something? He was trying to like make you laugh or like get your attention. He's showing like changing your attention to something.
From one day to the next. My day is so full of all sorts of different things. But
yeah.
All right, we're going to talk about LBJ, President LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. Let me give you a little backstory about him. Lyndon Baines Johnson, born 1908, died 1973. He was the 36th president of the United States, serving from 63 to 69. He became president after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, under whom he had served as the 37th vice president from 61 to 63. Now, do we have LBJ here?
Oh, he's here. He's here. He's saying hi.
Hi.
He's saying hi to you, Lisa, and he's saying thank you. He's saying thank you. He's actually very like relaxed and he's in like casual. He's got like a button up, but it's casual. It just seems casual. You know what I mean? Like it's a button up and it's his casual, right? To me, I would think that's kind of dressy, but it's his casual.
That's good. That's back in the day, of course.
Yeah, yeah. But he's ready to go. He says, "I'm ready to go."
I am too. Well, let's go with some questions from our wonderful community. First question. Can you talk about your upbringing and your parents? Apparently, you are depicted as a very cruel boy in your teens. I didn't know that. Is it true that once you tied a stick of dynamite to a dog and blew it to pieces, and that you tortured a donkey to death? That's weird because that's a Democrat symbol. And many times you would shoot dogs for sports. First of all, is that true?
Yeah, he's saying yes. Some of it's true. Um, he was young. They lived out in the country. He's showing me like a country, like a farm or something, but he lived out in the country. He had a lot of friends. They were pretty wild. He's talking about like just, out doing whatever, trying to keep themselves busy and do things. But he says, he's talking about it wasn't just him. He was around with like friends.
Well,
Like,
that doesn't make it right. But I mean,
no,
it
no,
could take
no,
you
no,
on.
no, 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 no. He's talking about, he's not saying it was right. He's not saying it makes it right. He's just saying that being with his friends, and I feel like this is going to head towards a little bit of his presidency in a way of how being somebody who followed, even though he was a leader, but he would like go by what the group did,
Oh, yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Yeah, and he does say that he did have some trouble growing up. There was some neglect, like neglect and like they didn't talk to you. They talked at you.
Yeah.
People talked
Children to
at
be
you.
seen and not heard kind of generation.
Yeah, right, right. He says his was a little tougher than most. Expect a lot of expectations of him, and like never good enough kind of attitude. And that doesn't make it okay. It doesn't make it okay to hurt animals.
Yeah.
But he also grew up hunting animals. So, it wasn't like, yeah,
It
he
was
didn't
not
look at
a
it.
big stretch to go. Yeah.
Right,
But did you
right.
torture a donkey to death? Is that true? And
Hold
how did
on,
you
let me get
torture?
this right.
Yeah.
He's saying he didn't torture it to death, but there was some like he was trying to show off and like
What did you do?
break it, like break the donkey, hitting it. He shows some kicking.
Okay.
um
But it
he
didn't
makes
die.
he what yeah he's it did die, but he's saying that I'm trying to get exactly what he's showing me here, because he's saying that it wasn't like he was sitting there torturing it till it died. He just wasn't nice to it. He was pretty mean. And then it was already old. And so it didn't help. It didn't help the situation.
Okay.
He wasn't trying to do it as in watch me torture this animal kind of thing. It was almost like he's showing me like trying to break the animal.
Yeah.
Like you break a
Break its
horse.
will. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how he shows it.
I think it was true about the dynamite tied to the dog's tail, though.
Yeah, he's not denying that. He's not denying that.
How did
No.
you feel about it when the dog just was blown to pieces? What did you feel? Any remorse, shame, anything?
He did. He did. He felt bad, but he wasn't going to show that in front of anybody, you know? Not as much as he should have, he just said. Not as much as he should have.
Did
Felt
you
bad.
did you suffer from any physical abuse from your parents? If so, which one? Everybody spanked
Yeah,
it back then.
dad,
Dad.
dad. Yeah, yeah. He's showing me switches, like a switch,
Oh yeah.
like you
Yeah.
take off a
Right.
tree. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah,
really popular back then. Okay,
yeah.
who was your idol that influenced your life and decision to go into politics?
He says Roosevelt. Roosevelt is what he's saying.
Wow, okay, which one?
Franklin.
Franklin D. Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah,
Democrat.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Franklin Roosevelt. Yeah, yes,
About
yes.
he was a anti-Semitic racist. Did you know that?
He liked what he's saying is he liked the power, the way he had like the power,
Yeah.
how he held himself, how he so he's saying from what he knew
Yeah.
of him too.
Right.
There wasn't the internet or TV as much with stuff out there. It's what he would read. He's saying about him. But this is interesting. I didn't know this. There's a lot of things I don't know. This is a long time ago, right? For my time. But he's saying that there would be articles you could read and it'd be like the same thing as the internet. Like they would like tell things, but there would be two sides to it.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like I didn't know that. Like you would have two sides, like you have like on the internet or on the news, you know, on TV.
Counterpoint. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what he read, he liked and he looked up to him. Yeah, he looked up to him.
How do you feel about him now? From your perspective as a spirit?
You know, he still respects him, but he says that there are, I feel like this might come up a few times today. There are going to be negatives and positives about every single leader.
Of course.
Let's just stay with our country because other countries is just overwhelming to talk about. But he's saying just with our country, there's going to be positives and negatives with every leader.
Being, you know.
Yeah, yeah. He's saying that. I was listening to him here. Yeah, he's saying that also the perspective. He's showing me a perspective in the way that people look at things, and the way that like somebody could be doing something, but everyone has their own opinion and their own perspective of it too.
Right. Yeah. In your adult life, apparently you killed a sheriff over ballot stuffing. Suffer from mental, and then you suffer from mental health and anger issue. Would you have called first of all, is that true?
That he killed somebody?
Killed the sheriff over ballot stuffing. It's okay to admit it. Nothing can happen to you now.
Yeah, no. He says yes. He said yes.
But what happened? You didn't get convicted or arrested or anything?
No. He's saying no. I was trying to see what happened. I was trying to see what the situation was, tune into it a little bit to see what he did or what happened. I feel like it wasn't on the spot. I feel like it was had it done.
Oh. You
kind of
someone
thing.
Else do it?
Yeah. Okay. Like it wasn't his hand.
Oh.
Had it done.
Okay.
So
and that's why it flew under the car?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting from this.
Did the one who actually did it?
I'm not sure if it's right.
Yeah.
No, I'm still getting a no on that. I'm still getting a no on that. So
did you suffer from any mental health issues? Or did you suffer from
he did
issues? Tell me.
He did.
Tell me about your
He did. Yeah, he did. He's saying he did. When you're somebody who has a lot, this is his words. When you're somebody who has a lot to say, a lot of ideals and a lot of things that you're passionate about and nobody listens, sometimes you get aggressive. Yeah. He also didn't have ways of coping skills in a healthy way. He's saying in a healthy way. And he did suffer from mental illness. He's showing me like he would get like he couldn't hold his temper. Yeah. When he was younger, he learned how to do it better as he got older, with maturity. Yeah. But when he was younger, he could lose his temper very easily.
Was your father a model for that? Or maybe your mother?
Yeah, he said yes. He said yes to the father. And he says also him as an individual, it was just the way he was so, like he felt things very deeply. He was like very passionate about things. And it was hard. It was almost like that's how you get your point across.
Yeah.
Is how he thought.
Oh,
You know,
I see. Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, that's how you get your point across. He's also saying that there wasn't a lot of diagnosis back then for things like this. He also suffered from some depression, he says. Like, if he didn't get something to go the way he wanted, or things didn't work out, then it would be anger, but it started in a place of fear too. He's talking about,
oh yeah,
like he would have fear, control.
Anger is a facet of fear.
Yeah.
So, killing that dog and torturing the donkey and the whole thing with the sheriff, I mean, you kind of, and the anger, you kind of fit the categorization of a psychopath. Now that you're on the other side, do you say yes to that or no?
He says it could be the start of one, because what he's showing is that I don't know who this is, but there are people that are around him as he gets older that kind of start molding him. Did he go to some kind of reform school, or I don't know, but he's showing me like as he got older, there were people who he would learn from. Okay, so it wasn't like they sat there and taught him in a classroom, that he would like learn from and watch to try to learn to get a control over this, because there were certain goals he had. And he was so type A personality of he wants to make those goals so much that he will do what it takes. And he knew that the behaviors that he was, behaviors he was like expressing, the way he was expressing himself, wasn't going to get him to that end goal, he said. So he read a lot of books. He did a lot of self-educating, self-healing, not self-healing, but like like a self-help. Like modified behavior, like self-help type books, things like that. Articles. So it's almost like he knew what he wanted, and because of that, he knew he had to change the way he reacted to things and acted about things. Yeah.
Did you, as a president or a vice president, ever act in contradiction to your conscience?
Did a president or a vice president ever act in contradiction?
You, as a president or vice president, did you ever act in contradiction to your beliefs, your consciousness, your
yes.
You name anything big that we
would... Yes. There were a lot of things he's saying during his time as president. First of all, not standing up for Kennedy and what he knew was coming. And I'm getting chills really, really strong right now. Not standing up for what he knew was coming, keeping his mouth shut.
What did you know? And how did you know it?
He knew what was going to happen. He knew it was coming. He's saying, though, that he wasn't like the one who planned this. It wasn't like, okay, this is my plan. But he is saying that he knew what was going on. And this is it's kind of scary in a way, because I mean, not scary, but you don't want to put fear into it. This is me saying this. But the government has a lot of corruption. A lot of governments do, right? But he shows me like, okay, if you are part of the mafia or part of a gang of some kind and you don't follow what they're going to do, then you're going to be the one on the other side of the line, right? You're going to be the next target, is how he puts it. Yeah. And so at that time, and it's almost like you're in this position, what do you do? So, and
could have whacked you off.
Right. And that doesn't, and he's saying right now that doesn't make it okay not to stand up and say something. He's saying, have that integrity, do it, but he didn't. So that was one of them.
Well, Jackie Kennedy Onassis felt that you were in on the murder of JFK until she died. How do you feel about that?
He knew this. He knew that she felt that way. And in a way, he was in on it. Absolutely, he says, because he didn't stand up and say anything. He didn't stop it. He didn't. It wasn't like you could just go tell somebody, like go.
Want him to die so that you become president?
No, it wasn't like that. He's saying that it's like he was the one put in the position, almost like he's making it like a puppet in a way, a puppet.
Okay.
Like you got the puppet masters, and this is what's going on, and there were things that were being changed that inside didn't want things changed. There's like inside government, there's inside programs, inside he's giving me examples like FBI, CIA, but it's not the outside of the CIA like that you see with your eyes, but there's an inside type group.
Like a deep
Okay, there's
CIA.
that type of thing, right?
Like
And
Black
there were
Ops.
things, right, things like that, things that you just don't know that happen. What happens is the things that are kept quiet and top secret, things like that. But he's saying that he didn't, but if it happened, he was going to run anyway, is how he's putting it. Like he would have ran the next term, is how he's putting it anyway. But he's saying that he should have stopped it. He's saying, yeah.
So, which of JFK's future plans for the country caused concern with members of the Congress or the Senate, or for that matter, the deep state?
What? What was it? Which of the problems?
Which JFK's future plans?
Oh, okay.
Seemed to cause concern that may have prompted the plans for his assassination.
There were a few things he's saying. There were things that they couldn't get him to do that they wanted him to do. Okay. So, it's not just one president, it's not just one person in the control seat when this is what he's saying, not me. It's not just one person in the control seat. When you're the president, you're not the only one. You're not like major one in control all the way. He says there's a lot of other people that are, pulling the strings, is how he puts it. So he was going to be shutting down. All I can see is shutting down programs, shutting down inside. Yeah, inside, like deep state type stuff. He was going to be shutting that down. He was going to be even ones that we know about, is what it feels like. Like government. I don't know. I guess it's all government, right? I mean, it's not like he was firing congressmen or anything. This was actual. Yeah, this was actual things. Yeah, right.
All right. I think we answered this one already. Was the assassination of JFK an inside job so that they could put you in as president?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was part of it.
Did those reasons have to do with the war and what JFK was investigating? I don't know what he was investigating.
What has to do with it? What?
And did those reasons have to do with the war and what JFK was investigating? Maybe the military industrial complex, they wanted the money for the war and he was going to.
This was part of it. Yes. This was part of it. Yes. Yes, absolutely. And they wanted the war to keep going. And when I say they, whenever I say they, he's saying they as in inside.
The military industrial complex.
Right.
The money from Drummond and Boeing and all these,
Right.
All right, there's a photo of LBJ and his friend and former Representative Albert Thomas right before LBJ is sworn in. Turn page. LBJ smiled at Thomas, and Thomas smirked and winked at LBJ. Jackie Kennedy, who was next to LBJ, was still wearing clothes covered in her husband's blood. Why did Albert Thomas smirk and wink at you?
Because things worked out the way they planned, And when I say that, I'm not saying what those two planned. I'm saying what the whole group that planned it, and things worked out the way they thought, because they weren't even sure. Like, here's something he's saying. He's saying he knew what was being planned and what was going on, but what they weren't sure of is if it was going to work.
Yeah.
So right. So it was more like, and there was, and I don't know if this was brought up ever in, like, did we do a JFK like video or anything? But he's talking about that there was backup. Like, if the one person didn't get him, there was another gunman that would have, kind of thing.
So the deep state.
That just gave me really, like, made my whole stomach turn when he showed me that.
What did
give me the chills.
So if Lee Harvey Oswald, he was hired by the deep state, is that what you're saying? It wasn't
right. He was put there to do this. But there was somebody else. There was another gunman or another shooter that was going to make sure, like, if he didn't, you know what I mean? Like, to make sure that it was done, to get the job done. Yeah, but he's saying that they still weren't sure if this was going to, like, work. They just, like, heard what was happening, knew what was happening, wasn't sure it was going to happen. So when it did, and they were standing there, it was kind of like, it worked out, like what they said. And now you're standing there.
All right.
So, yeah.
What role did LBJ have in pushing the Warren Commission into the lone gunman theory? I believe he strongly did. I don't know if that's true. I just don't know how far he pushed. So did you push the Warren Commission to go with the lone gunman theory? And if so, why? He's dead.
They just didn't want what really happened to come out, so that's why, so they would have the one fall guy, the one he's using the word patsy, but the one fall guy, the one person that they're blaming this on. He's saying that it wasn't just him. Like, a lot of things were expected of him once he got in office.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you have somebody that's not doing things that these others back here want you to do, and not every single president does do everything what these people back here want you to do, right? But they do it enough to keep them happy, right? But back then there was a lot more to it. Like, there was a lot deeper stuff that he was mixed in with that he wasn't changing, if that makes sense. Like, that Kennedy knew. There were also things that Kennedy knew that they didn't, like, want him to be a part of, because that he didn't agree with. Okay, that's what he's saying, that he didn't agree with. But Johnson, I was asking him, I said, Mr. Johnson? Okay, call Mr. Johnson. Or he says LBJ.
Yeah.
There are things that he was easier to not manipulate, but he went along with them, more because of the position and wanting the position, and because he agreed with some of the things that they were doing. Yeah.
Now, there was an interview with a Secret Service agent, Abraham Bolden, who said that he heard an angry conversation inside the Oval Office with LBJ, JFK, and RFK, where LBJ told the Kennedys to stop fucking with me. Is that true?
He did argue with them. He argued with them a lot, not just that one time. He argued with them a lot. They had different ideals. He actually shows me that he had some jealousy about the Kennedys. And there was one of the brothers that he really did not like, and it was like they clashed, is what he's showing me.
Okay. Was it or
Bobby.
Okay.
Bobby. Yeah. And he's showing me that it had to do a lot with how he was raised, where he grew up, and where they grew up. They grew up with money. He grew up with no money. And he's saying it's not just that. He's just giving, like, examples. They were, like, handsome and popular, and he just wasn't that person. He wasn't like that. He came from a different place. It's not about that. It's about integrity. It's about passion. It's about, you know what I mean? It's not about, having things handed to you. Right. And they just clashed. They clashed, and he's talking about, he thought he was a weasel is what he doesn't now, of course, but he's saying that's how he thought. And so, yes, they clashed a lot.
In what way did you think they were fucking with you? Just effing, but I'm going to say what Erik would say.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, a lot of ways, like, well, for instance, he's saying that whenever he would try to put his, opinions in about what they were doing, it's almost like they would threaten him. So the Kennedys had their side too. Their negative sides too.
Oh, yeah,
and they would threaten, do what we say, or he's showing me that it's like that still. I mean, times may change, but people don't, he says. People are people is what he's saying. And back then, if they had the power, they would use it,
Yeah.
Mess with your family, mess with, they threatened. There was a lot of threats made. But he was talking about fucking with him, and he said he did say that. He did yell that. What had to do with more of a political thing, like political, not like personal, but political. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Now, did you really tell your mistress, Madeline Brown, the night before the assassination, that after tomorrow, those SOBs will never embarrass me again? That's not a threat. That's a promise. Did you actually say that to your mistress? Didn't know you had a mistress. Naughty boy.
Yes. He had a few girlfriends, he said. And he said yes to that.
Okay. And LBJ apparently had a son with her, Stephen Brown. Did Lady Bird know about that?
Yes, she did.
What did she say?
He's showing me that they were a couple that were together for convenience, almost.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
Like
you don't get divorced back then. It doesn't look good. You have to stay, this is the person you marry, this is who you're married to. It's all a show, he's saying. It's all a show. So she just, it was just part of it. It was just part of being with him. It was just part of the show. That's the way he's putting it. Yeah,
a lot
that makes sense.
Swear that the car Kennedy and y'all and his wife were in was a 6-seater, and some say it's a 4-seater. It's like a Mandela effect thing. Was it a 4-seater or a 6-seater? And the reason why is because it was a 6-seater. Who's coming up here?
I think it's a 4-seater. Okay. He's saying 4-seater.
Yeah.
He's saying 4-seater is what he just said.
All right, somebody just delivered something.
Somebody coming to the door?
Yes, okay. Was LBJ aware that Dallas was chosen because he needed JFK dead and removed because LBJ was going to be indicted soon? Were you going to be indicted soon? What was that all about?
No. Well, he's saying there was something going on about this. He's saying there was something going on about this. What was it? Okay, so he's saying something within. They were trying to get him out. They were trying to get him out of there. Some of the Kennedys. So even though JFK was the president, a lot of the brothers and the other part of the family were a big part of this. Yeah. They all had it's almost like putting their hands in it. Like they all had their hands in it, their say-so in it. And he didn't like that. Yeah. So, yeah, there were things. I mean, there's corruption. He says there's corruption. People do corrupt things, and they can find things on you if they want to have you indicted or get you out of there. So yes, that's a yes to that question. That they were.
Okay.
So I was listening to see if there was anything more about that. Yeah, he says that's why a lot of conspiracies came about. Like he was the one who had Kennedy killed.
Oh, yeah.
Because of some of these things. But he says, in a way, you can say he did, but he didn't. He just knew. Like he didn't stop it, and at the time he was okay with it. and that's not okay.
Crime of omission.
He's saying that now.
Right.
What?
The crime of omission, not
Yeah, right. Right, right.
You did not want to run a second term, even though you were very ambitious. What was the reason you chose not to run again? Maybe a couple more.
He's talking about the Vietnam War, something to do with the war.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's saying something to do with the war, so things that went wrong with the war. I mean, he's a very proud man, very
Ego.
Ego driven man.
Probably.
Yeah, yes. And he's saying that it was almost like he failed in a way with the war in his mind, and that was the main reason he's saying is the war. Yeah.
So let's do a couple more and then we'll take a break and start part 2. So you guys hit the notification bell and please subscribe. We're trying to get to 100K subscriptions.
Almost there.
So do that and hit the like button too. I think that helps as well. All right. What would President Kennedy's presidency or world be like if he wasn't assassinated? Erik, you might have to answer this. Was there an alternative life path that we aren't aware of?
So Erik's saying there is in a way, but it wouldn't have been that much longer because this was meant to happen. This was part of the human experience. He's saying that there would have been something down the line. Like if he didn't get killed that day, that he eventually would have been. He would have been assassinated. This was something that was supposed to happen. The timing is a little different, sometimes on the timelines, but he wasn't meant to stay. He wasn't meant to continue. There would have been probably... Okay, so something he just said, this is Erik saying this. He says that each president that comes in has their ideals and their goals that they want, to change or do, and what they want to do for the country, some of it for the country. Right. And that's Erik saying that. Okay. And then he says, but it's not always permanent, is how he's putting it. Okay. Like, the next one comes in, like they're only there for a certain amount of time. So it would have not been that much different is what he's getting at. I'm trying to see what he's showing me. There wouldn't have been a lot of differences in the future, like right now. Not a lot. Yeah.
The collective. All right.
Right. Not a lot of differences if he would have lived. Oh, he says, but there would have been a lot of things that were different within individual people that were affected by this, he says. Yeah, there would have been differences there. And again, the chills keep going up and down my back. He's saying, but on the whole, it wouldn't have been that much different politically wise.
Okay. Yeah. Now, Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald. Was that the deep state's plan also to get rid of a witness so that they could stick with the lone gunman theory?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm hearing. Yes. Yes.
I can't remember what happened to Ruby. I mean, he went to prison, right? Or was he killed? Also to stop it? I can't remember.
I can't either. Okay. I can't either.
I don't think it's important. Being a Dixiecrat, last question of part 1. Being a Dixiecrat, it seemed you'd be among the last people to push civil rights legislation through Congress. What was your goal in doing so in such a tumultuous time? Yeah, you created the Great Society, correct?
Yes, he's saying yes to that. Now, he did have goals. He did have goals for this, but he's talking about something about his predecessor, Kennedy, I guess. Where there were things that he wanted to follow through with because
the population loved Kennedy.
Yeah, you don't want to just here I am and now I'm going to do everything I want only. Like he wanted to follow through with a lot of the ideals that Kennedy had, and this was one that got started. But he's saying that he did agree with some of it. He did agree with it. So, there were some good programs there. This is controversial, of course. This isn't me saying it. This is controversial. Still to this day, he says, people being dependent on the system and things like that. However, and I don't know, I have a feeling there might be other questions about this, but what he's bringing up right now is there are other things that could have been also done if he would have took a second term.
Okay.
That he had planned,
Okay.
that still to this day probably aren't too great. But he's saying that just because he would have done these things, and he's talking about education and rehabilitation, things like that, just because he would have done that doesn't necessarily mean it would have lasted, you know.
Yeah.
People change things, but of course, some of the other stuff did last that he did, the civil rights movements and space race. Those are things that he's talking about that he continued on for Kennedy.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, NASA.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
were you a racist?
Taxes.
Like a lot of whites were back in the day, in your generation?
He was. He grew up with that. But as he got older, and he was trying to look at the country with more of a diverse look. He says he did. He tried to change the way he was brought up to believe.
Good. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So, but one criticism people have about the Great Society is that this created an entirely new class of professional poor, not only black, but white too, that people who are locked in the welfare system forever.
Mm-hmm.
No, and then the poor females traded in a husband for a welfare check. And so that it sort of disintegrated the entire family, at least in poor people, both black and white.
Mm-hmm. He says that was going to happen anyway, but instead of them being on the street, this kept them off the street, is how he's putting it. But he agrees. He's agreeing with the fact that it did create more, though. Like it did create that. It did create dependency for some families that live off the system, that are stuck in the system. Okay. It's kind of like he's showing me a generational thing too. Generations, like mom and then kids. Yeah, it's generation.
Totally.
Yeah.
Was part of the reason why the nuclear family is in shambles. But we may talk about that. Maybe there are other questions.
Yeah, he wants to say that also is because of education, lack of education, and there should be better education programs. I'm wondering if this will come up later, but we can talk about it in the second one if it does.
Awesome. All right, you guys check out Ginger Bailey down below and in the description box, but also on the screen. Love you all. Love you, Eric. Love you, Ginger.
Love you.
Stay tuned for
Love you, Mom.
I love you more. Part 2 coming up.